Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest edition of MEED Market Talk. Today we're going to be looking at the construction industry and some of the key issues around contracting and forms of contract in the construction industry. I'm delighted to be joined today by Asel el-Housan, who is the founder and head of commercial and contracts at AEH Consultancy. Welcome, Asel.
Thanks for having me here, and it's my pleasure.
Thank you for coming in. What is the primary issue facing contracting in the construction industry in the Gulf? I hear about unfair contracts and contractors talking about having to carry all the risk. What's your view? Are contracts fair out here, and how do you view the fairness?
First, I would like to thank MEED for having me today, and I would love to share my thoughts. I'm actually working more than 22 years in this industry, and in the UAE region and the Gulf, starting even North Africa, Far Asia. So I have a wide experience on using the contracts, and mainly the FIDIC contracts, which is widely used in here. I would love to share my thoughts on how the construction field is suffering and how they are dealing with the contract in this aspect. Actually, if we will talk about fairness while you are signing the contract or writing up the contract, I will not really call it fairness as much as I will be calling it that the risk is balanced in between the parties and they are allocating the right risk to the right party. The problem in this region that they try to shovel most of the risk and shift it to the contractor.
Is that something that is unique to this region, or do we see that in construction around the world?
Mainly in this region.
And why is that? Is that because of the role of government in contracting, or is it a cultural thing? Why should this region be different?
I think it's more cultural thing.
Okay.
But you will see changes from years before till now. I remember in 1990s, people used not even to open the books or read it, that they will sign the contract, they will keep it in the drawer, and no one knows what's in there. Now you will find that mainly contractors, they are reading and negotiating, trying to negotiate, if it's possible, the conditions of the contract. So they are trying to bring it more to be balanced, but at the end, the paymaster is the one who is putting in the terms, and he is the one who is enforcing it. So if you will tell me, is it fair or the risks are balanced in between the parties, I will say not really.
And as a consultant who provides contract management and project management advice and consultancy, are you advising contractors or clients? Are you on both sides?
Yeah, we do work with both sides. We do work on behalf of the clients and on behalf of the contractors. And we do advise them that there are some set of conditions you cannot live with it in the future. Like if there are no consequences of not receiving payment, then, and with a time bar, a specific time bar, which is a reasonable time bar, then you will be working without receiving your payment and you don't know what's going on next. So you need to know this. If you don't have cap for your LDs, you cannot live with that, because even if there is delay, you should have a cap, and the cap have to be a real cap. People will think that if it's written only 10%, that's the cap, but no, this will cap the delay damages, it will not cap the damages. You know, in the construction and in the contracts, you have to be very specific and go word by word. We do negotiate terms and conditions on behalf of the contractor, and sometimes you will find wording that you can live with in the future, a little bit more open, that you can interpret it in different ways.
So is your concern in the current state of the market is that because the balance of risk is being put too much towards the contractor,
yes,
that it's unsustainable for the construction companies? Is that what you think?
You know, if you will go to Europe and you will give unbalanced contract, you will find that the good contractors, experienced contractors, either they will not participate or they will price that risk properly. The problem in this region that they will not be able to price the risk because they will find someone else who didn't really assess the risk properly and he's taking the job. So this will leave, at the end, even if you're an employer, you want a contractor who is winning and making some money. You don't want to be a partnership with a contractor who is losing. I was an employer before, and I know how an employer will suffer if the contractor has nothing to lose. You don't want to put your contractor in that position. Unfortunately, in the market, you will not find this all the time. You will find that employers will go to the cheapest contractor, regardless if the price is right or wrong.
Lowest price wins, that's the mantra.
Yes.
And so what would you like to see change? How should construction procurement or contracting change to redress this imbalance?
Maybe the first thing we have to think about is the cash, that the project have to be cash positive and the payment have to be paid on time. If not, a short term of actions can be done by the contractor. He can slow down within 7 days, 10 days, 15, all 21 days as FIDIC suggested. He can take an action fast, not to wait for 60 days or another 90 days. Payment terms should not be prolonged a lot to ensure that the contractor can survive. The second thing is the design. I think the design and the design issues are very important. You will find that projects will start before having 100% design completed. And even projects we are calling that they are 100% design completed.
Is that because in many projects out here, particularly real estate projects, it's a commercial investment, and so the client thinks, I want to get this as fast as possible, and so they'll start building before they have finished
It looks like that this is the rhythm of Dubai. We want everything yesterday. So the rhythm of Dubai going during the booming, we can understand it, but it's continuing. Even 2012, 13, 14, we used to see that projects will start without having the design completed. You know, if you will start, it's fine. You can start some phases, but the design have to be completed, have to be coordinated properly, and the detailed design have to be actually detailed design. Now with BIM coming on board, I believe some of these issues for the design, it will be sorted out. And I believe that Dubai Municipality now, they are taking further steps towards such a thing, that with the BIM on board, then all the design have to be completed and coordinated.
So do you think BIM is quite an important potential catalyst for change that might improve construction in this region?
The way how I will see it, it's just the start with BIM. And BIM will open a lot of doors for a big improvement in the construction field.
Okay.
Many years ago, I'm thinking that it's enough of having this block and plaster, and it's really time consuming and need a lot of labor force. It's enough. I believe with the BIM, you will find the 3D printing and many things will improve and to become easier and faster.
So you've outlined 4, I think, changes that you would like to see. So is get rid of the lowest price wins culture, payments on time, complete the designs before starting construction, and using new technology such as BIM,
Yes.
and then that opens all sorts. Are there any other things that, I mean, for example, use of arbitration to settle disputes, or the speed of dispute resolution?
Yeah, arbitration is beautiful, and I don't know if you are aware that in June there is a new arbitration law is now in place, which it is really very good law. I would love to see a further step that there will be an education as well, which will be recognized by the courts. The decision of the arbitrator will be recognized and enforced by the courts. I think with this, you will find the disputes are sorted out fast and will bring more fairness and balance to the contract.
So adjudication that's binding, recognized by the courts, what would that look like? Would that be some sort of government adjudication board or independent third-party industry board? How do you envisage that?
Usually education is sort of alternative dispute resolution, which is not in the court. It's out of the court, where you will choose your own expert.
Okay.
You will choose, let's say that you are having a problem with a program, so the educator is supposed to be having knowledge in the planning and in the program to assess the delay and say who is responsible of that delay. Or it's evaluation for infrastructure, so the educator have to be a person who knows the infrastructure and the variations on the infrastructure. Because it's now an issue that usually you will find contractors are suffering from not assessing, that the engineer or the employer will not assess their contracts on a fair manner. We said during preparing the contract, you have to have a balanced risk, and while executing the contract, you need a fairness there. Fairness should come from the engineer and from the employer.
So it's having that sort of outside pair of eyes,
yes,
to give a decision or a view that's not tied up with the dispute already.
If you will see, I'm taking FIDIC because it's used here in the market a lot, but if you will see FIDIC, how did they develop the way they were thinking? From 1987, they started with the engineer's decision, and since 1957, or when they started, they created the engineer who will be independent and third-party isolated. Yes, he is getting paid by the employer, but he's supposed to be a third party. He's supposed to be impartial. Then they found that this is not really working, and they had a lot of complaints from the contractors that he is not impartial. So they brought in an American idea of dispute resolution board, but they made it as education. That those dispute education board will be either their standing board during the construction period or ad hoc whenever you need them. In 2017, or even from the Gold Book in 2008, they found that this is a great idea, and let's keep them standing dispute education board throughout the project. With this, you will ensure that all of your disputes are sorted out in a very fast and effective manner.
And did you say that this year there's going to be a new law or a new adjudication committee? Or?
No, I said that arbitration law was launched in June 2018. But I hope that we will find that there are an education law or educational decision is recognized in the courts, like the arbitrator award.
So you have outlined quite a long list already of changes you would like to see, and I'm sure there are many others. What are the barriers to implementing these changes? I mean, the BIM, you said, was a catalyst for wider change.
Yeah.
So it sounds like one barrier might be lack of adoption of BIM, for example. But these other changes, late payments, lowest price wins, completing the design, why aren't we doing that now?
Because the market will be suffering more and more. Now the market, it's challenging here in Dubai and in the whole area. If you will not find very good prices and contractors will not survive, I think the whole construction industry will be in jeopardy.
But that's the consequences. What are
Yes.
the barriers to change? Yeah.
The first barrier that the employers have to change their mindset, and they have to go more to an open risk approach, that they are sharing a risk schedule with the contractor, and both of them are contributing in how to assess and how to measure the risk. And the second thing they
But why would I do, if I'm a construction client and I have oversupply in the market, lots of contractors competing for my contracts, I'm going to get the lowest price. Why would I worry about anything else?
I was an employer, and I made a wrong choice in taking the lowest price before, and the project cost us more than double at the end, and instead of finishing it in 6 months, we finished in 1.5 years, and it was a very important project. So at the end, it's not only the lowest price, it's supposed to be the lowest price with the good contractor who knows how to execute it and finish it on time. We have to keep one target all the time, which is the project. If you will keep that target, you will not only, to complete the project, you will not only look at the price or the contractor or the client, you will look at the overall, how to keep the work, pushing the work and completing it on time and within your budget.
So
But your budget have to be right.
So as somebody who's worked on the client side and on the contractor side and as an independent consultant, the changes that we require in the construction industry, or that you think we require, have to come from the client side, the mindset of the people that are sponsoring
Yes.
projects.
I believe that they need really to step ahead, and they will start taking a partnership relationship with the contractor. You cannot just keep a contractor as a slave, and you will whip him and you will not pay him, and you will dismiss his rights and variations and the claims. And easily you can hear someone saying that, don't think about having a time extension with cost. How come? If we will have this mentality, you will never improve. It should start from there, but also the contractors having a big responsibility, that they should understand the risk properly and know how to assess it, know how to negotiate their contract.
Okay, so you have talked about the problems of unbalanced contracts in the region, and that sort of the relationship between clients and contractors that often puts too much risk on the contractor. But it can't always be like that. I mean, have you, in your experience, either on the client side or the contractor side, have you seen it work well? And do you have examples of well-run projects?
Actually, I witnessed myself when I was an employer and when I was a contractor, also when I'm now a third party, how the employer, when he will go to a balanced approach and a partnership with the contractor, how the project will be having a successful ending and both parties will win. And you will be surprised to see how contractors are willing really to approach the employer and give a lot of things, a lot of ideas, a lot of innovation on how to keep the project in budget, within time, and complete the project successfully. So I believe, yes, I witnessed when I was in the three parties, and it was a very good and happy journey.
So it can work?
It will work very well if parties will work in a partnership, yes.
Excellent. Okay, I want to move on to FIDIC now. So you are, if I've got this correct, you're an affiliate FIDIC member and a FIDIC trainer.
Yes.
So you provide advice and training to help people use the FIDIC contracts the correct way. Why is FIDIC important to this region? What is the significance of FIDIC?
If you will check in the market, 90 to 95% of the contract, it's FIDIC or FIDIC wording or based on FIDIC. Sometimes you will find that employers will breach the copyrights and they will amend the general conditions of contract. So people, they get used to use FIDIC books and they are familiar with its clauses and how it's changing. They know how to operate it and how to use it. The good thing about FIDIC that it's the original books, it's taking a very fair and balanced approach towards the risk allocation between both parties. And FIDIC, they are all the time proud that they are books written by engineers, addressed to engineers, so the language is easy to understand. It's easy for the engineers to use it in their daily life.
So if I can just ask you though, that you said 90 to 95% of project contracts in this region will be based on FIDIC in some form, but you have also said that most of our contracts here are unbalanced in favour of the client. So that means we're taking FIDIC as a basis, but then doing something to it that makes it unbalanced. So what is happening? How is FIDIC being amended to get rid of some of these benefits? Or why is it being amended?
Why? Because the employers are really unfair and they lack of some maturity that the contract have to be and the risk allocation have to be balanced. If you will not make it balanced, then the good contractors will not participate. The prices will be very high and you will be paying more for this unbalanced risk.
So what you're saying is that the FIDIC model or the FIDIC architecture provides the basis for good contracting, but it still depends on how you apply it.
And how you amend it. If you will take, I'll give you just a small example of amending the contract, that an employer will take the FIDIC contract and he will remove the right of the contractor to suspend and slow down if he didn't receive payment. And he will give him the right only to terminate after 60 or 90 days. Definitely the contractor will not be able to survive for 60 or 90 days without payment. Or they will make, in FIDIC 1999, they start having sanction that if you not give notice for claim, you will lose your right to claim. So they will make, instead of 28 days, sometimes 7 or 3 days. Okay, it can't be. I will not say it's impossible, but it can't be that you want me to be aware and I have to notify you within 3 days. If I did not, then I will not have the right to claim and my claim will be dismissed. So you need some more balanced approach.
Is it fair to amend FIDIC contracts, so that you're comfortable with that concept?
Amendment in general to suit your project, to suit the legislation, to suit the country, it's fine. But the amendment have to be studied carefully. Even you can shift some risks from the employer to the contractor, but you have to make it clear how you are shifting it and why you're shifting it. I think you can shift risk of work and the design. Design is one of the risks which you can shift it to the contractor and make him that he's the one who is responsible of the design and he will get paid for that. But if you will shift the risk that if there is any delay in payment, it's the contractor's risk and he have to live with it, no one can live. It's cash is the blood of any work you are having and any business you are having. If you don't have cash, you will never be able to survive.
Okay. Now, this year the FIDIC Contracts Committee has rolled out a suite of amendments to
Yeah.
the various FIDIC models. Can you summarise what those changes are? But I think more important, why they have made those changes.
In 2017, December, FIDIC launched a new rainbow of the books, which addressed the three main books they are having: the red for construction work, and the yellow for plant work, and the EPC turnkey contractor silver book. If you will see FIDIC, how they are starting and how they are developing, you will understand why these changes were a must. They took more advanced steps towards the project management and how the work have to be managed. They suffered from people or employers will think that claim is a dispute. And whenever I'm giving you a claim, it means I'm insulting you or we have to start the fight, while a claim is something normal in the construction contract. And whenever there is an issue had been happening or an event happened, I have to claim against that event. So they segregated the two clauses between the event, between the claim and the dispute. So dispute is separate clause rather than the claim. FIDIC 99 laid the ground to something beautiful. They added the employer's claim, where the employer now, if he wants to deduct any amount from the contractor, he is not allowed to deduct it himself. He will submit a claim, and the claim will be assessed and going into termination, then it will be certified. And whenever there is any payment certified, then it should be paid. The employer cannot stop it, and he have to pay it. Now, in FIDIC 99, you will find that there will no time bar, and claims from the employer and the contractor will not equal. In 2017, they provided the two claims with the same procedure, with the same time bar, that both of you now are equal. If you want money from each other, you have to be treated equally. And there is a beautiful change that now determination, if there is any claim or variation, the determination by the engineer having a time bar for the agreement and for the determination.
So the amendments are about continually trying to create more balanced structures in the relationship.
Exactly. There is one thing I would love to add. We are talking now here about education, that we want education. And in 2017, as I said, that they are having a standing dispute education board all the way through. So they enhanced the informal role of the DAB. Now the DAB are there. You can have an informal meeting. You can tell them your case. Both parties will be sitting together and they will discuss the case without having a dispute, without declaring a dispute. And the DAB informally as well, they will say what they think. If you understand that the DAB are independent, impartial, and they want the best for the project and they are fair. So this is supposed to reduce the amount of dispute tremendously. Because without going into a dispute, without having any fight, they will sit with the DAB and they will tell them, we're having this issue, I believe this, he believes that, and these are the documents. What do you think? Just in a friendly discussion. And the DAB also, they will say informally and non-binding opinion that we believe in this case, this is supposed to be.
Does adjudication, has that been shown to work in other construction markets?
I love the education procedure in UK because it's part of the Act, Civil Act, and it's fast. You will find that you will have your decision from the educator within 28 days, which can be extended by 14 days by the educator, another 14 days if the parties will agree. Then you will have your decision for one dispute. You will take it to the court, you will enforce it, and you're having your money back. People used to think that they don't use education, they would think that it's costly, but education is not costly. It's very effective. I think the problem in the market is why they are not using education. First, they're not aware of it and how beautiful it is. The second, courts, they don't recognize the decision. So even if you have the decision, you have to go back again to arbitration to be able to enforce it and recognize it in the court.
Okay, so as AEH Consultancy, your job is to, part of your work is to advise and train on setting up contracts correctly and on contract management. So what are the key issues, if I'm entering into a contract, what are the key issues I should be considering when I'm negotiating a FIDIC contract?
When you want to negotiate a FIDIC contract, first as a contractor, because he's the one who's negotiating, you have to understand the deviation from the FIDIC contract. What had changed? You have to negotiate your risks, like the payment terms. The most important thing is the bonds, that it will not be open-end, it will not be on first demand, unconditional. The third thing, you have to understand that every risk or every action will have consequences. So what are the consequences if you do not get paid? What are the consequences if you do not have determination for evaluation or claim? You have to ensure that you're having on-account payment even if there is no determination for that claim. What are the caps of your liability? In each case of, let's say, default or breach, even you can be in default or breach, what are the actions against that? All of these things, when you will be able to have time extension claim, is it really on fair basis, covering everything? Such stuff is what you have, and the dispute resolution mechanism you're having in your contract.
I guess ultimately the client gets to decide on the contract, but at least if you're a contractor, if you have those thoughts about the consequences and what you're actually signing up to, at least you go in with your eyes open, I suppose.
You know, the bad thing about what we're doing, lawyers and us, that people will shake hands while they are smiling and looking at the rosy picture. We will lead the contract to sign, and we will be thinking of termination and dispute and fights and variations and claims. We will be trying to avoid having loose ends or gaps, that we know what we're supposed to do in case this will happen. There is a way that we can live and we can survive. This, by the way, from both sides, from the employer side and from the contractor side, that they know what will happen in case the other party is in breach or if there is anything going wrong. What are the steps you're supposed to take? Yeah.
Okay. Asel el-Housan, founder of AEH Consultancy, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure. It was very nice. It was very nice.